January 9th, 2023, the Goldsboro City Council business session is called to order, and I'll ask the Pastor Ryan Barbado from the Bridge Church to please come forward and lead us into our opening prayer. Please stand, and that'll be followed by the pledge of allegiance.
Let's pray. God in heaven, we honor your name. We know that there's an agenda tonight, Lord, but ultimately it's your agenda that matters the most, because you were here in Goldsboro long before any of us existed, and Lord, should you tarry, you'll be here long after all of us are gone. And while we're here, Lord, my prayer tonight is that this council would have what it needs, Lord, to make great decisions for our city. Lord, I pray you'd give them wisdom. I pray that you'd give them knowledge and discernment, Lord, and unity around decisions that matter the most. Lord, I pray also that you'd bless each of them personally. I pray that you'd bless their families. I pray that you'd bless their children and their grandchildren. I pray that you'd give them a peace and a joy, God, in their homes and in their hearts. Lord, they're here because they care about this city. Lord, if there's any division among them, Lord, I pray that you'd help them to see the common goals that they have, and I pray that they would work towards those things with all their hearts. And I pray this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yes, sir.
Please join me in saying the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll, please.
Mayor Ham,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak,
Present.
Councilwoman Jones,
Present.
Councilman Broadway,
Here.
Councilwoman Matthews,
Present.
Councilman Gaylor,
Present.
Councilman Bass.
Here.
We're all here. I don't normally start the meetings with mayor's comments. I always generally end up with mayor's comments, but this time I'd like to have an exception. And I'm going to read it if you'll permit me to do so. This is the first meeting of your city council in 2023, and I would like to begin it by expressing some comments that I hope will be received in a very positive way. The single most important principle that we as Goldsboro leaders should develop is our citizens' trust of us. That trust will be gained and maintained by this body demonstrating our unified goal of making sound decisions that affect the lives of every man, woman, and child that we represent. As we enter a new year for this council, it is my hope that each of us keep in mind why we are sitting here. I believe we are here to work for the overall improvement of Goldsboro. I believe we are here to work for a better quality of life for the residents of this city. I also believe we are here to strive for and plan for this city's expansion and moving it forward. And there are many other responsibilities we have been entrusted to address and resolve. That said, we can only achieve those goals if we work together. We must do so or we will fail in our obligations to our citizens and the oath we pledged to uphold when we were sworn into this office. We each have our own ideas and opinions, and that is understandable and acceptable. That individual mindset guides us as we deal with issues that come before us. But we should never let that individual mindset take precedence over what is best for the people of this city as a whole. We will from time to time not agree on every issue. There are 7 of us, so to not always agree is understandable. But there is a necessity that we express our disagreement in a manner of decorum expected of this body. We can debate issues passionately, but let us not turn debate into personal attacks. We should each consider that our actions and words are displayed before the public, and we are judged accordingly. Let not this body be seen as dysfunctional, unproductive, or incapable of working together. Let us be seen as a unified council of men and women endeavoring to make Goldsboro a better city. Finally, 2023 being an election year, some on this council may not seek to continue to serve, while others will serve to continue that service, will desire to continue that service. Regardless of our individual future plans, I implore each member, including myself, to make 2023 a year that we can look back on and feel proud of our successes, so that we and our citizens are proud to call Goldsboro our home. Okay. That said, let's move into the business. First item is next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. The minutes of the work session and the regular meeting of December 19, 2022. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please show by raise your hand. And it's approved. At this time, we have a presentation, a resolution expressing appreciation for services rendered by Anthony Carmen as an employee of the city of Goldsboro for more than 28 years. And I'm going to ask Major Carmen to come forward, please.
Good.
I seen you yesterday, December, and I know you had a call to duty.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to read the resolution. Resolution expressing appreciation for services rendered by Anthony Carmen as an employee of the city of Goldsboro for more than 28 years. Whereas Anthony Carmen retired on December 31st, 2022 as a police major with more than 28 years of service with the Goldsboro Police Department. And whereas Anthony began his career on October 12, 1994 as a police officer with the Goldsboro Police Department. And whereas on July 16, 1997, Anthony was promoted to investigator with the Goldsboro Police Department. And whereas on June 25, 2003, Anthony was promoted to police sergeant with the Goldsboro Police Department. And whereas on November 18, 2009, Anthony was promoted to captain of patrol with the Goldsboro Police Department. And whereas on April 29, 2015, Anthony was promoted to major in investigations with the Goldsboro Police Department, where he has served until his retirement. And whereas Anthony has proven himself to be dedicated and efficient public servant who has gained the admiration and respect of his fellow workers and the citizens of Goldsboro. And whereas the mayor and the city council of the city of Goldsboro are desirous on behalf of themselves, city employees, and the citizens of the city of Goldsboro of expressing to Anthony Carmen their deep appreciation and gratitude for the services rendered by him to the city over the years. Now therefore may it be resolved by the mayor and the city council of the city of Goldsboro, North Carolina, that we express to Anthony Carmen our very best wishes for success, happiness, prosperity, and good health in his future endeavors. This resolution shall be incorporated into the official minutes of the city of Goldsboro and shall be in full force and effect from and after this 9th day of January 2023. Well, as I said, we were supposed to have done this back in December, and we had an unfortunate situation that happened just before the meeting that his professionalism was called to be part of that investigation. And sir, it means just as much to me today to do it as it did then. And I will say that one of the things that I've enjoyed most about being a mayor of the city is swearing in new police officers. And I always tell them that they cannot achieve a higher calling in this city than serving as the protective force of this city and the people that live in it. I commend you on your service, and as I said in that resolution, I wish you the very best success.
Thank you very much.
Chief, did you want to say something? Come on back up here, Major.
No, just briefly. Major, I remember when you started, you came to our shift, and for the first year or so, you had kind of the run of luck that I did when I got hired. You had a little run of bad luck, and vehicles may not have been your best friend, and I've been there and done that. But I will tell you this, I've seen you progress through your career. I've been somewhat envious of you because you took a path that I wasn't able to take at the time. You went through investigations, which that's where I think I should have gone. But anyway, you've done an exceptionally good job. I've appreciated everything you've done for the department, not only just for the officers, but also for the citizens. You've been dedicated to the department, the citizens. Whenever I would have to go out of town or I was out of sorts, you would step in for me as the interim chief or the acting chief, and I never had any doubt that you were not going to be able to accomplish anything that was thrown at you. So I appreciate working with you. I appreciate your friendship. I wish you nothing but the best. I also want to thank your family for your support of him and loaning him to us for 28 years. So he is now yours to do with what you wish. But again, I do appreciate your friendship, your service to the department and to the citizens, and congratulations and good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
I want to family members.
I'm slow, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Get one with the chief on that side and me on this side. Thank you.
Got any comments? I'm sorry, any comments? Actually, I do. Please. Okay. Those of you that know me know that I'm never at a loss for words. I want to take this opportunity first to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve in this capacity for the last 28 years. It has always been my dream to serve in this profession, and I think that I enjoyed it more than words can describe. My wife was at my side the entire time. She counseled me and she helped me through some tough spots, and the tough spots were my mindset trying to push through to do better, and I appreciate that. And I also want to say that you have a group of the most dedicated individuals working as first responders. Our firefighters and police officers are the best that we have, and I really hope that we can treat them that way. There is a critical shortage of police officers and firefighters, and money is not the problem. I wish it were. I wish we could throw money at it, but money's not the problem. So I'm going to leave it to you to come up with the solution to encourage some of our candidates who should be in law enforcement and fire services to step up and do that, because we don't do it for the money. I mean, we want our bills paid, but we don't do it for the money. We do it because we want to serve. And I've also served 20 years in the military, so I'm used to service, and I see that in the eyes of our first responders. So whatever it is that you need to do, or if you need my help, call me. But we need to come up with some way to attract the bright and young men and women to work in first responder professions, because we need it here in our city. And just remember, when you call 911, you don't want somebody who's there just for the money. You want someone to run into the fire or run into the hail of bullets because they want to serve, because they want to help people. And that's why we do it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is public hearings, and we'll turn turned over to our planning department.
Mayor, excuse me, Mayor, we need a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we need to approve the resolution.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the resolution, please signify by raising your hand. Okay.
Good evening,
Okay, sir.
Mayor Ham and City Council.
Good evening.
We'll get back to the right slide here. The first item on the agenda tonight is a general rezoning Z27-22. This is the SREG Real Estate Development rezoning. Property is located at 604 North Berkeley Boulevard. The parcel consists of approximately 0.43 acres. Property is owned by Rebecca Price. The property currently is within the Office and Institutional 1 conditional zoning district. This is the former location of Danny Hood Realty, if you're familiar with that. They're proposing this parcel be zoned to a general business zoning district. The land use designation for this parcel is commercial. As you can see on the aerial image here, the property's location directly on North Berkeley Boulevard. When looking at the existing zoning there, that O&I1 conditional district was established to provide specifically for that Danny Hood Realty business, but that district does have language related to allowing for office and community institutions that have a similar development characteristic that requires close locations to residential and commercial uses. With what's being proposed here, the general business district, this district was designed to accommodate the widest range of uses that provide general goods and services to the community. And this district is intended to promote high quality, accessible developments that'll serve not only the community but the surrounding area. When looking at the adjacent zoning, you have shopping center zoning, and then you predominantly have general business zoning, which is the predominant district located along Berkeley. Looking at a comparison here with what's being proposed, this is just a condensed list of some of the types of permitted uses, not a complete list, but in this general business you could expect to see art studios, tanning salons, newspaper offices, pawn shops, businesses of that type nature. And as you can see here, the surrounding district, you have general business conditional on either side of the parcel, with general business and shopping center in the general vicinity of the property. With this being in the commercial land use designation, that designation does place an emphasis on infill development. This would qualify as infill development with it being a vacant building that could potentially be a new use. Here you can see the commercial land use designation predominantly makes up the surrounding area in relation to this parcel. Whenever this went through the TRC review process, due to the nature of this being a straight rezoning or general rezoning request, there were not any comments generated. If approved and a site plan comes in, more comments will be generated at that time. Just to conclude staff's evaluation of this, again, it's a general rezoning. This district that's proposed, the general business district, has been designed to accommodate a wide range of uses to serve the community, and that this zoning district that is proposed is consistent with the commercial designation. Staff is recommending approval based on these facts and also on the fact that this zoning district is the predominant one you find on Berkeley Boulevard. Planning Commission at their meeting back in December voted 4-0 against in favor of this. And at this time, if council has any questions for staff, I can answer them. If not, if anybody in the public is willing to speak, they may, and you always have the option to continue this hearing to a date certain if you wish to do so.
Okay. Does council members have any questions they wish to ask? Okay, this is a public hearing on the rezoning of SREG Real Estate Development. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward. I see no one rising to speak, so we'll close the public hearing opportunity. So at this time, I'll ask, is there a motion to adopt the recommendation for approval and consistency statement that the Goldsboro Planning Commission has provided, and adopt the approval ordinance with the inclusion of the consistency statement? Or is there a motion to deny and adopt the ordinance to deny with the inclusion of a statement that deems this conditional rezoning request to be inconsistent? Is there a motion?
Motion to adopt the recommendation for approval and consistency statement that the Goldsboro Planning Commission has provided, and adopt the approval ordinance with the inclusion of the consistency statement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, all approving this motion, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. This time we'll move to Z28, GS Langdon.
Second rezoning request tonight, as the mayor stated, Z28-22 is a rezoning request for properties located at 302, 308, and 310 Green Drive. These properties each are just under a half an acre. They're currently located in the residential 16 zoning district and are being proposed to go to a residential 12 zoning district. And again, this is a general rezoning request with no specific use of the properties yet known. The properties are located in the medium density residential land use designation. Here you can see an aerial image of the properties as they're located on Green Drive just off of North Berkeley Boulevard, with two properties adjacent to one another and another one just a few hundred feet down. Looking at what's existing, the R16 residential 16 zoning district was established to accommodate low-density single-family residential uses and to prohibit any kind of commercial activity. The residential 12 district is also established to accommodate your single-family residential uses, with the caveat that it does allow for multifamily residential uses, but it also desires to prohibit all activities of commercial nature. For multifamily in the R12 district, your density requirements are you have to have 12,000 square feet for the first unit with 6,000 square feet for each additional unit. Anything that has 3 or more units would be required to come back to council to receive a special use permit before any kind of approval could be granted. Looking at the surrounding zoning for this property, it is entirely surrounded by residential 16 zoning. When looking at these districts, again, the key difference is that multifamily aspect, where 2 units, a duplex, that would be permitted by right in the R12 district. This district also does allow for things like life care homes, rooming boarding houses, and special population housing only pursuant the issuance of a special use permit. So again, any of these uses would have to come back to council prior to any kind of approval. As you can see here, residential 16 zoning makes up the predominant surrounding area. You do have some O&I 1 adjacent off of North Berkeley Boulevard. When looking at what the land use plan recommends, with medium density residential, this was a designation given based off of the existing residential development patterns and any kind of infrastructure constraints. Despite this proposed district not being identified as a corresponding district with this land use designation, there are services in place to support a higher density development. And really with these lots being just under half an acre, their size is an extremely limiting factor into the extent that they could be developed. 2 units would be the maximum allowed on these lots if they, exist as they currently exist. Here you can see the land use designation map with medium density residential. Mixed use is in the general vicinity. Again, with it being a general rezoning request, whenever this went through the TRC review process, due to the use not yet being known, there were not any comments generated due to lack of a site-specific plan at this time. To conclude with staff's evaluation, this is a request for 3 separate parcels just under a half an acre. There are existing utilities that would support a higher density development on each one of these parcels. One thing I want to touch on as well with those 2 adjacent properties, if they were to be combined and they wanted to come in and do anything more, 3 or more, it would have to come back to council for any kind of approval. Staff is recommending approval of this rezoning request based on the fact that there are existing utilities in place to support, slightly higher density development. The size of these parcels is an extremely limiting factor in how densely they could be developed. And the use of these properties for a small-scale duplex type of development would not be out of character with the surrounding residential area from a density standpoint. Planning Commission reviewed this item at their December meeting, and they voted 4 in favor and 0 against in recommending approval of this. And if council has any questions, I can take them at this time. If not, just please proceed through the rest of the required actions, and do keep in mind you do have the ability to continue this to a date certain if you wish to do so.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Okay, this is a public hearing for rezoning Z2822 residential sites from R16 to R12. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come forward. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening,
Before
Mr.
you-
Mayor
before
and
you-
Council.
Excuse me, are you speaking, each speaking, or are you speaking as a group? Speaking for this 3 of you?
I'll speak separately.
Okay, all right. Okay, please state your name.
Okay, my name is Joanne Clark. My address is 105 South Drive in Goldsboro, North Carolina. I come before the council tonight as a selected representative of the residents of Mimosa Park to ask the mayor and council to deny this motion to amend the official zoning map and comprehensive land use map of the city of Goldsboro concerning Z28-22 on the basis that the location of the zoning application is strictly unique to single-family homes and dwellings. The proposed motion, as stated during the council meeting, requests that the official zoning of 3 parcels of land within the subdivision of Mimosa Park be updated from R16 to R12, which would allow the construction of multifamily dwellings in a uniquely single-family residential area. The zoning request states if the properties were to be developed as a multifamily, the density would not be out of character with the area or be a deterrent to the surrounding single-family dwellings. Mr. Mayor and council members, this statement is simply untrue. If the 3 parcels were to be zoned for multifamily dwellings, the subject properties would be absolutely out of character for the surrounding single-family homes and the subdivision as a whole. According to our neighborhood's original covenant, the subdivision is strictly intended to house single-family dwellings and has been that way for decades. Each of us here tonight as residents of Mimosa Park had to agree to those covenants upon moving into this subdivision and are under the impression that our subdivision is meant strictly and uniquely for single-family dwelling. It is true I live directly adjacent to one of the parcels mentioned in the proposed motion, and that I would be directly impacted by the construction of a multifamily home. However, it is not just me or the handful of residents that live directly close to the 3 parcels in question that have concerns. Mr. Mayor and council members, I have with me, if the council will accept it, a petition with 51 signatures from residents of Mimosa Park protesting the rezoning of these 3 parcels. Each and every one of us agree that if the 3 parcels were to be zoned for multifamily dwelling, the subject property would be absolutely out of character for the surrounding single-family homes and the subdivision as a whole. Mr. Mayor and council members, we the residents of Mimosa Park ask that you deny the motion before you concerning Z28-22 on the basis that the location of the zoning application is strictly unique to single-family homes and dwellings and that the 3 subject properties would in fact be out of character for the surrounding single-family homes and the subdivision as our whole. Thank you for your consideration and for what you do for the city of Goldsboro.
Thank you, ma'am. And you may give the list of signatures to the clerk.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you. My name is Jean Potter. I live at 300 Birch Drive in Goldsboro, North Carolina, in the Mimosa Park area. I too wish to state I hope that this is denied. It will totally change the character of this neighborhood. We have a very safe neighborhood. We have many elderly that walk around safely in the evenings, getting their exercise, many families that walk around. Changing the dynamics with multifamily homes, it changes the atmosphere. In some eyes, it changes safety factors, which we hold very dearly in this neighborhood. We're a very close neighborhood. 2 new families have just purchased and built new homes on the adjacent properties with no idea that they were looking at the possibility of having multi-home facilities next to them. And it is totally out of character for this neighborhood to have something projected at this point into our neighborhood that is totally different. It changes the character, it changes our attitude, it changes our view of the neighborhood when you start adding in multifamily homes into where we have lived for many, many years and have established a wonderful neighborhood. And for for single-family homes in there, it's an excellent area. It's a gem. And we really do not want that changed, and we hope that the proposal will be denied. I thank you for your time and everything that you all do, but I thank you for considering denying this.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
And I appreciate the fact that you invested in a community, the single-family homes. But the question I have, I just wanted you to elaborate. What about the multifamily home component makes you feel it's not going to be as safe?
It's a possibility of revolving individuals. With rental homes, you have they don't stay as often generally, and the possibility of revolving tenants is very high, especially with the economics the way they are right now. It's an extremely high possibility, and that is something that we are very, very concerned about. We have a very stable neighborhood that has had people living in it for decades, and like I said, we have many elderly in our community that walk in the evenings and all day getting their exercise. We have small children. We have new families moving in. The neighborhood is being regenerated with families that have a very safe place for their children to ride their bikes, to walk, to play. And having revolving tenancy so close and right there, and only on and the lots are split. So you've got a single-family home right in between, multifamily homes or buildings. Those people just invested their lives in building these new homes. And they didn't go out and buy one built next to an apartment complex or duplexes. They built it because our neighborhood is safe. It's an established neighborhood, and it's safe to grow your small children and live there the rest of your life in safety. And unfortunately, the rental communities there's high turnover and possible high turnover. Some people may come in and stay a while, but the fact is, it's revolving people coming in and out. And that does not fit our neighborhood at all. Like I said, we've got people 90 years old out walking and have been there, and we know each other, and we welcome these other families in, and we help safeguard them. Everybody kind of watches out. We're not a nosy neighborhood. We are a caring neighborhood like it used to be, where neighbors took care of each other. We watch out for each other. We know each other. And it changes that dramatically. And it changes the safety factors. We fear for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question of this lady? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Being from Boyette, I've lived on Green Drive for 35 years now. And I was a little upset when I seen them cut the woods down and put them 2 houses they put. But that's good, and I'm sure those folks, like she said, don't want apartments put next to them. And it's been zoned like that ever since I've been there. I've always believed if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. And I just like to leave it stay like it is.
Thank you.
They done took all my thunder. There's nothing else I can say.
Thank you, sir, for coming. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against this rezoning request? If not, I'll close the public hearing and I'll read the motions. Is there a motion to adopt the recommendation for approval and consistency statement that the Goldsboro Planning Commission has provided and adopt the approval ordinance with the inclusion of the consistency statement, or is there a motion to deny and adopt the ordinance to deny with the inclusion of a statement that deems this conditional rezoning request to be inconsistent?
I have a question rather than speaking to a motion right now. I have a question. The lady spoke about the covenant agreement with Mimosa Park. Mimosa? Yes. Okay. Does that conflict with anything that we're doing?
It's not the city's responsibility to enforce any kind of private covenants. That falls on a homeowners association or residents of that neighborhood, whatever kind of governing body they have to enforce those. We're just responsible for enforcing our city UDO. So we wouldn't have any kind of involvement in any kind of private covenants or agreements like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Austin? So we have two options here to either approve or deny. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we deny the motion.
This is a motion to deny and adopt the ordinance to deny with the inclusion of a statement that deems this conditional rezoning request to be inconsistent. That's the motion, sir?
Yes.
Okay. You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor of denying this request for rezoning, please signify by raising your hand. The motion is denied. Request is denied. Okay, at this time, we'll go to the next one, which is rezoning E30-22 Land and Forest Equity.
Get my button here. Council, the last rezoning request we had before you tonight. Let's see. All right, here we go. So tonight, we'll be looking at Z3022. The applicant is Glandon Forest Equity. LLC. The subject property is located on the west side of South Herman Street, between East Elm Street and East Pine Street. So at this time, the subject property consists of about 1.5 acres of property. Owners are the Southern District Convocation Church, Gregory Jones and Dorothy Jones. Property currently exists in a residential 6 zoning district. The proposed use or the proposed zoning is for neighborhood business conditional zoning. The land use designation is high density residential. And the applicant's requesting a conditional rezoning for 1.45 acres of property from residential 6 to neighborhood business conditional zoning district, limiting the property to a commercial facility proposed for use as a retail sales store. Looking at your monitor there, you'll see the properties identified. So again, the residential 6 district, it was established to accommodate both single and multifamily residential uses and to prohibit all activities of a commercial nature. Neighborhood business conditional zoning that's proposed is established to provide the services and commercial development needed to serve primarily the adjoining neighborhoods. This district is intended to promote the development of small pedestrian-oriented establishments whose character and use is compatible with nearby residential neighborhoods. The specific conditional district is for the purpose of establishing a general retail business such as a Dollar General, Family Dollar, etc. Looking at the surrounding zoning for the area, you'll see that majority of the property is surrounded by a residential 6 zoning district. To the south, it does have some neighborhood business zoning adjacent to the property. So looking at a comparison of the uses in the R6 district versus the neighborhood business conditional zoning proposed for the area, you'll see that residential 6 primarily consists of duplexes, single-family homes, special population housing, and townhouses, where the neighborhood business conditional zoning that is proposed will consist of a retail, small non-durable goods, not in its own category, of less than 30,000 square feet. I'm going to show you an attached list of additional uses as part of this conditional rezoning request. If you'll look, in case the applicant has said that in case this business were to cease to exist, they did want the council to consider additional uses for the subject property, and they have included in this list churches, community centers, fire station, government offices, library, public parks, police station, post office, public emergency service centers, schools of a private and public nature. These are the uses, again, that they are considering adding in case the original use were to cease. In addition, ABC store for liquor sales would be a permitted use. Banks with drive-throughs, bless you. Banks, finance and insurance offices, barber, beauty shops excluding home establishments, clinic, medical, therapeutic offices, computer operations, daycare centers for child, food stores, retail only, health spas, fitness and tanning, home services, laundry, offices, businesses, medical and professional, excluding retail, trade, and home occupations, a pharmacy, restaurant, and employee cafeterias when located within the principal building, restaurants, retail, and a tanning salon. So these would be the uses in addition to the retail store facility in case it were to cease. Again, the comprehensive land use plan for this property is identified as high density residential. The city's land use plan again identifies it as high density residential as a preferred land use based on existing residential development patterns, constraints to development, and the location of infrastructure such as water, sewer, and a transportation network. Despite the fact that the neighborhood business zoning district is not a corresponding zoning district for the high density land use designation, there are several factors which could support the rezoning request. Most of the subject properties have been vacant for approximately 50 years. Although infill development is a preferred use in this high density residential development land use designation, The highest and best use of the property may be for commercial uses. The proposed conditional rezoning request would be compatible with existing commercial zoning and uses in proximity to the site. As you can see here, this is just a small section of East Elm Street and Herman. You'll see directly to the south there's a little shopping center owned by I believe it's Mr. Derek Manley. And he has a good reputation and good businesses there just south of this subject property, zone neighborhood business. So again, this is a site plan that has been submitted by the applicant. As you'll see, the retail sales facility consisting of approximately probably 25 to 3,000 square foot building, associated parking, a detention pond at the rear of the property, with full access onto Elm Street and Herman Street. The application was presented to our technical review committee for comments. There were no comments at the time, and the comments will not be generated until a site-specific plan is submitted for development. Staff's evaluation is that for this 1.45 acres of property to be rezoned from residential 6 to neighborhood business conditional zoning district, which would limit the property to a commercial facility proposed for use as a retail sales store. Again, additional uses for the commercial facility have been proposed by the applicant if the proposed use ceases to exist and are included in this conditional rezoning request. This district is intended to promote the development of small pedestrian-oriented establishments whose character and use is compatible with nearby residential neighborhoods. If the rezoning request is approved by City Council, the owner-developer will be required to submit for site plan approval before building permits are issued. Staff is recommending approval of the rezoning request based on the fact that rezoning would be compatible with existing neighborhood business zoning and uses in proximity to the site. Due to the property remaining vacant and never being used for residential development for almost 50 years, staff has concluded that this conditional rezoning request would be appropriate for serving the immediate needs of the surrounding communities. Planning Commission voted on this proposal in favor of the proposal 4-0. At this point in time, I needed to share with you, Mayor, some information that was rather new to us as of 5 o'clock this afternoon. The applicant on the application and the owners of the property, there was some information that was not listed on the application that was not correct. We have more than one owner associated with one of those parcels of property, and because of that, state law requires that we have everybody who is a owner of the property be notified and give consent to the rezoning request. Well, that's one of our problems there. We don't have everybody listed, and we just found that out today before our hearing tonight, as well as the church that is owning property to the north of the subject property. The bishop there, we don't have at this time evidence to show that he has legal capacity from the church to act on the church's behalf. So for these reasons alone, we'd like to make a request to the board that we continue the hearing till next month. These items are being worked out by the owners and developers as we speak. They are very well aware of these requirements that must be met before we move forward. So if you will, Mayor, I'll leave that with you tonight. If you have any questions regarding this request, I'll be glad to answer them at this time.
Does any member of the council have a question?
I just have a question.
Yes, sir.
In the rendering, you had a retention pond.
Yes, sir.
Is there going to be, for the sake of is that close proximity to a residential community to avoid possible drown hazard? Is there a fence to be put around
That's
that?
certainly one thing we can look at when they submit a site plan for review. There is no residential houses adjacent to the property on either side, but there are some across the street. So again, these are very good points, and we will address those at that time to make sure that any of those hazards can be mitigated.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Talbot, would you be asking that we continue this until the February 6th meeting?
Yes, sir, I would.
Mayor, I
February
move
6th
that
or
we,
23rd of January.
I'm sorry, sir.
You say February 6th or 23rd of January? He said February 6th.
Was it February 6th, our
First February meeting?
first
Yeah,
February
yeah,
meeting is what we
February.
would propose,
Okay.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, does anyone have any objections to this rezoning matter being continued to the February meeting? Okay, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
If there's anyone that's here to,
I just prefer that if it was in form of a motion.
Okay.
It would be seconded and properly and then voted upon.
Mayor, I move that we continue this into a date certain to be February 6th.
a motion is made to continue, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, motion's approved. Anyone that may be here to speak on this, you're invited to come back at the February meeting. Okay, that closes the public hearings. Now we'll enter into the public comment period. And before we do, I want to make you aware of the fact that our comment period is a total of 30 minutes, as you see on the screen there. And we will color code. There's a purpose of me saying this because we changed this around a little bit. The clock will start off at green and it'll turn to yellow at some point at 3 minutes. 30 seconds, right, 30 seconds. And at 30 seconds, you'll hear a beep. And we're going to demonstrate this to you at this time. And then your 30 seconds will end, and that ends your comment period. So that's your notice that you've got 30 seconds before the end of your 3 minutes.
At zero, it does a double beep.
Yeah, at 0, you'll hear a double beep. "10 seconds, it changes to red. So now, just as soon as all right, recess the clock. Ready to go? Okay. Okay, we are in the public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak may come forward. You have 3 minutes. And at the end of the 3 minutes, I will notify you that your time is up. Your time will start when you introduce yourself.
Well, I introduced myself last month at the last board meeting. My name is Natalia Newkirk. I have Lieutenant Mayor. How you doing?
Good.
City council members. I'm here again on tonight, and tonight I'm here demanding justice. Council Taj called me and invited me on tonight, and I came. He told me don't come alone, so I brought a whole lot of dead people with me, because we need some justice. Now, Goldsboro Housing Authority, y'all say y'all have no jurisdiction over them, but what about safe living conditions? Here is 717 Water Street, full of black mold and mildew. As y'all can see, my son was just rushed out, having an asthma attack. That was 717 Water Street. Here we are at 413 Denmark Street, where I kept waking up with headaches last week, not understanding why, until I opened the AC vent and found dead roaches, cockroaches, spiders, and once again, black mold and mildew. Now, on these posters, you will see a whole bunch of my relatives that have died while living in Goldsboro Housing Authority. This is my grandmother, Carolyn. She was living on Hugh Street during her time of transition, which was diagnosed cancer, but we know black mold can cause that too. Here we have my father, Tyrone, who died.
Could you speak to it close to the microphone,
I
please?
want y'all to see everybody though, because the addresses is up here: 301 Hollowell Street, 900 Olivia Lane. It's a lot of justice. I got a letter from the infamous Dr. Taylor, who he ain't hitting on 2 cents anyway, because he falsified birth records, stealing my identity, that I'm just finding out 33 years later that I'm not even Nikki Bridges' daughter, but I'm April Newkirk's daughter. And I would like to talk about Nikki Bridges giving Frederick Stevens rat poison that killed him when he moved with his mama and he became sicker at 301 Hollowell Street, as well as Naomi Troublefield I wanted Helen to see justice for her son before she took her last breath, but happened she took her last breath this Friday, so I'm a little upset about that. April Newkirk also told me that Eric Moore killed Michelle Wynn and Tamika Pridgeon and showed her friend where the body is. Her friend name is Sophia Compton, and I could demand justice on this day for these people. We know that the police killed Masonic Harvey. Which one? Who knows? Dominic Woodard is my cousin. Tamika Dominic Woodard. Tarius Artist called him over there to hook up a stereo system, and he was shot 22 times. I'm pretty sure Tarius Artist know who shot him. Errol John Smith, we know somebody did it. Montez, we know somebody he got to know who killed him. Jedediah Hayes told me that her husband, Joseph Hayes, told her that Steve Simmons did not kill Tyree Jersey Simmons. Indeed, it was Nakia Simmons who did it. Now we need justice. My friend Brianna died when she was 28 years old. She was homeless, living with anybody in Goldsboro Housing Authority that would open their doors to her. She died from brain aneurysms. And this, y'all can't do nothing about Anthony Goodson, and he know all this stuff going on. My grandfather was living for 19.
Okay, ma'am, your time is up.
Well, I hope I'm going to leave all of this with y'all, and I hope you do something with it. Because I got to get to the hospital with my son, who just had an asthma attack.
Thank you.
Have my post. I can't have my post. Some red prayers to follow upon. A whole lot of injustice going on.
Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. State your name, please.
My name is Winter Goodson. Good evening, Mayor Hammond, councilmen and women. I'm here tonight as a citizen of Goldsboro to say I'm ashamed of some of the members of this council. I also stand here tonight as a wife that has heard enough lies and misinformation to deem it necessary that I address it face to face. I've been following the meetings on social media, and I read last week's Goldsboro News article in reference to the Housing Authority of the City of Goldsboro. The remarks made at council meetings and in the article by some council members consistently sound uninformed and at times outright lies. Like when Councilwoman Jones stated at the July 7th meeting, which is no longer on your website but on YouTube, and I quote, "A lot of them don't have internet," in reference to HACG residents, apparently not knowing that they do have internet that's been provided by HACG during the early stages of the pandemic. Or when Councilman Pollock said to the Goldsboro News Argus reporter in the article last week that he was unable to reach anyone at HACG about the issue. I know that to be a lie because you had no trouble getting in contact with my husband, Anthony Goodson, for a different matter, but I won't share that conversation because it's rather embarrassing. Or when you make bold statements that are without validity, such as, unfortunately, they don't think some of the tenants have a voice. How can you give insight into an agency's thoughts or beliefs? If you have not been able to get into contact with the agency, how do you determine the residents' voices weren't heard when, after all, you have no record of maintenance work or verified communications? As a citizen of Goldsboro, I, for one, am proud of the work being done through HACG. As someone that formerly lived in public housing, I wish the self-sufficiency programs that HACG offers would have been available to me in a very difficult time in my life. I wish that there would have been youth support in the way that HACG supports the youth. Ask any of the principals here in the Central Attendance District of Goldsboro about their support. At the July 25th meeting, Councilman Jones, you made the remark that I hope you get some good grant writers. I hope you meant that sincerely because they were very good. As you know, HACG was one of 9 agencies in the nation to receive this planning grant, which is a huge deal. I sincerely hope that HACG and the City of Goldsboro get the Choice Neighborhoods grant, and that for the citizens of Goldsboro, especially the children, we can all come together and get on the same agenda to improve housing for our most vulnerable citizens. My purpose in coming tonight was not to put you on blast, as Councilman Pollock also stated in the News Argus article, that you do have to do that sometimes, but rather to remind you that as our elected leaders, you will be held accountable for what you say and questioned for how you choose to use your influence. Please don't use your platform and position carelessly. Thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I respond?
Yes.
Okay, so in response to that, the reporters in the audience, he didn't ask me for a quote. That was actually from the meeting and what I said in reference to Ms. Newkirk and the countless calls that I've made I've spoken with the mayor on numerous occasions because I haven't been able to contact certain individuals. And that can go on record. I did say that, and I still haven't received a call from certain individuals, not saying your husband.
I have a question, I could be wrong, but I
Yes,
thought
ma'am.
there was no, comments back.
No, ma'am, that's incorrect.
Okay, so carry
I
on.
just wanted to rebut what you said. But in response to that, like you said, I didn't call him. That was actual minutes that were taken from the meeting when Ms. Newkirk came to the meeting, and several other residents that I've been to their homes personally called in reference to that. I'm sure Mayor Ham can attest to times I've been out of town to call when I haven't been able to contact. Since he's on the board, he's been able to contact individuals. So just to go back, I have contacted people that I haven't spoken to or left messages with at the administrative level, and that's what my concern was. I don't ask.
Conversation, because if you are, my
Yes, ma'am.
view is, I heard you talk to my husband on the phone.
One time, I've called numerous times.
Okay, if we're gonna have,
This was happening.
if you're gonna have the conversation, please come up.
Could that not have been brought?
If the call was returned,
Ma'am
I've
Pro
got.
Tem.
Okay.
Ma'am Pro Tem.
Okay.
I'm just saying, if you want a question and
That's fine.
she's
I
responding, come
apologize
back
for
up to
the
it.
quorum.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else wish to speak? If so, please come forward. Please come forward. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
Good evening, sir.
I prepared a statement that I wanted to present a Happy New Year for the city of Goldsboro. But I woke up this morning and the news put a hole in that balloon. I'm gonna ask you very carefully, consider what happens to the youngsters that live in our communities, our at-risk youngsters. They're not being properly trained. They're not being, we have a positive example of what needs to happen right on the corner of Elm and Berkeley Boulevard, the entrance of Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. I've been here 10 years and I have yet heard a negative something coming off that base. Why? Because they're all disciplined. We need to set up programs to get our youngsters disciplined, and we won't have a problem. City of Goldsboro will become a positive example for this country. It's real simple. You know the information I gave you before. You know where I'm coming from. We've got to do something. I don't want to wake up tomorrow morning and hear what I heard this morning. It's got to stop.
Thanks, sir. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does anyone else wish to speak? If not, I will close the public comment period. And we'll move to the consent agenda items. Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir. Consent agenda items F through J are presented for council approval.
Okay, you've heard the consent agenda items. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items? F through J.
Move to approve agenda items F to J.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Ham,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes.
Councilman Broadway,
Yes.
Councilwoman Matthews.
Yes.
Councilman Gaylor,
Yes.
Councilman Bass.
Yes.
Okay, the consent agenda items are approved. There is no items requiring individual action, so we move to the city manager's report.
Yes, sir. I'd like to mention that the Downtown Development Director has coordinated a facilitator from Chapel Hill to assist in discussions for downtown parking on January 26th at 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. in the Wayne County Museum. A special meeting will be held and has been noticed as required because a quorum of council members want to attend. I'd also like to mention that the CDC Wayne County COVID community level is now high, as it is much across the state of North Carolina. And this is typically happening after a lot of holiday travel, and I just want to put that out there for people to be aware of it if they're not aware of it, and to take appropriate precautions. Thank you, sir.
Okay. This time, ceremonial documents, the proclamation will be read by Mayor Pro Tem Pollock, the National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day.
National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day proclamation. Whereas in 2015, several organizations came together to create National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And whereas law enforcement officers play such an integral part in our society as guardians of our way of life, and they deserve our support. And whereas there is a need to show law enforcement officers that our citizens recognize the difficult career that they have chosen in public service to us all. And whereas Goldsboro is the proud home of over 200 of the dedicated law enforcement officers across our country who put a badge on and go to work each day, knowing they may face extremely dangerous situations. And whereas, on average, 50,000 officers are assaulted, 14,000 officers are injured, between 105 and 203 officers die in the line each year, and over 300 officers commit suicide each year. And whereas, members of the Goldsboro Police Department and Wayne County and state law enforcement officers recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property and by protecting citizens against violence and disorder. And whereas, we appreciate the extraordinary efforts and sacrifices made by officers and their families members on a daily basis in order to protect our schools, workplace, roadways, and homes. And whereas, acts of kindness and appreciation from citizens for our law enforcement officers provide them needed encouragement and support to confront the dangerous and uncertain situation they face every day. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Goldsboro City Council does hereby proclaim January 9th, 2023 as National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day in Goldsboro, North Carolina, and call upon all the people of Goldsboro to take time not only on January 9th, 2023, but throughout the year to show their support of the law enforcement officers that put their life on the line each day to make our community a better place to live. We ask you to show your support by thanking your local police, wearing blue, turning your social media blue, or shining a blue porch light. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the seal of the city of Goldsboro, now North Carolina, this 9th day of January 2023.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Pollock. At this time, we'll go to Mayor's, council members' comments, and I'll start with Councilwoman Jones.
Oh, yeah, sorry, okay. Well, I would like to say Happy New Year to the citizens of Goldsboro and my constituents. Last year was challenging and economically and socially. My desire is that we move forward in finding resources to assist with our elderly and with their electric bills and the utility bills. We will continue to work for affordable housing. May we become a village for safety. Violence of any kind is unacceptable. Our children are being shot down in the streets and in the middle of the day. We have to begin to learn to work with one another and be each other's eyes and ears. I'm very troubled with the increased shootings. This has affected all of us. My condolences to the family and friends of those who have been affected. I ask that we all work together. My community is gathering together to work on ideas and strategies to see how we can become more effective in helping our children. The shooting and the death of a loved one is always a tragedy. It's tragic. And I desire that we become a village and a community that work together and band together. And also, I would like to announce that there will be a suicide awareness prevention workshop January 14th from 10 to 12 at St. James A.M. Zion Church, sponsored by the North Carolina Council of Churches and by yours truly, City Councilwoman Jones.
Councilman Broadway.
Thank you. I'd first like to congratulate Major Carman on his retirement and 28 years of service. He's done a magnificent job. And the second thing, I'd like to thank the public for their patience in our leaf collection and debris collection efforts. But even more, I'd like to thank the crews, the public works crews that are working extra hours and they're working without one or two trucks. They're working extra hours. They're out there in the rain, and if you see them, they're working hard. They're low on personnel, and they're low on trucks and equipment. And I'd just like to thank them, because you see those guys, they're working themselves to death. And that's all I have, sir.
Thanks, sir. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, I just want to say, pray for our youth, and let's lead by example as adults of how to be positive influences on how to take our community in the right direction. Let's also pray for the families that have been affected by the recent violence. I also want to applaud the work done by the various leaders and organizers within our community that work tirelessly to ensure that our children have an outlet, thereby redirecting them from engaging in negative behaviors. I want to give a special shout out to Ashford's Boxing Gym, as well as our brothers Roe Taylor and Richard Taylor, Major Halliday, for their consistency in helping the youth of our city. And I just want to take our 2023 in a positive direction, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Matthews.
Thank you. You know, oftentimes we, especially on this platform, we talk about things that we need to do and things that we should be doing, but I am asking this board to let's stop talking about it and let's start doing something about it. Major Holiday came before us and he had this great initiative, and whether we liked it or not, it's an opportunity to try it, and I think that we should be looking at opportunities to do so. We have a retreat coming up. Talking about the violence and talking about homelessness should be on our retreat. We should have some discussion. We should have some brain sessions about what we could possibly do. I mean, nothing beats a fail but a try. And we're talking about it, and we've been talking about it. And in talking about it, we're not doing anything. So I am asking this board that we, city manager, you're listening to me now. I'm requesting that this issue be put on the agenda. I don't have a special name for it, but if we want to do concerns of the city, I don't know how we want to name it. I can send you an email in detail. I also want to encourage the board to check your emails. I sent emails to everyone on this board, and only 2 of you responded. We get up here and we talk about working together and how we're a cohesive unit, and yet there's no action to support the words that we say. I deserved a response. I asked for a response. So please go back and check your emails if you haven't. It's been close to a week now, and I haven't heard anything from all of you. So I would appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Councilman Gaylor.
Following on Councilmember Broadway's comments, a debt of gratitude to Major Carmen. Someone who gives that amount of time to the service of their country and then the service of their city, and doing it selflessly and at the quality that he did, absolutely deserves this recognition from the city. Thank you to him. And also the volume of people that are out working right now, keeping this city afloat, keeping this city going, keeping this city around. It is pretty incredible when you get out and you meet the different our firefighters, our policemen, our public works crews, our just general parks and rec crews. We've got some amazing people, and that's always my favorite part of being on this council, is when we have someone that we're recognizing. I hate it that we're recognizing them because they're leaving, but I'm grateful for recognizing them because they were here. So with that, Happy New Year, everyone. I look forward to another good year. And a thank you to all of those that keep this city running.
Councilman Batts.
That's a Happy New Year.
Thank you. I just want to say to Mr. Holliday, I share your grief and concern about the news that we've heard the last 24 hours. To see 2 teenage children in this city come get in a firefight with adults and suffer the consequences that they all 4 did is sad, very sad. And it's not just the last 24 hours, it happens too often. And I don't know what the solution to that is, to be honest with you. If I did, we wouldn't have it anymore. But I do know it's a problem that grates on my heart and my nerves every time I hear it. And I'm sorry for the loss of the individuals and their families, and I hope, God willing, that we can turn this thing around somehow or another. And thank you, sir, for your concerns and your expression as well. I have no other comments to make. If there is no other business, then we are adjourned at 8:14.